Good morning. So today we're going to be looking at absolute values and absolute functions. So this will continue our 2-week look into a little bit more complex algebra. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is find the domain and the range of this graph. So remembering that the domain is the total number of x values and the range being the total y values. So I want you to look at that, and the answer is just in here. I'm going to breeze through. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at absolute values. So if we're talking about an absolute value, the absolute value is how far away that number is from 0. Okay, so in real terms, what that actually does is it gets rid of any kind of negative symbol. Okay, so a -6 is still 6 units away from 0. Therefore, the absolute value of -6 is 6. And 6 is 6 away from 0, so the absolute value of 6 is 6. So essentially what we're doing is we're removing any kind of negatives. Okay, so the absolute value of, say, -12 would be 12. And we denote absolute values with these two vertical lines. So you'll find that if you hit Shift and then the backslash on your keyboard, you will have that vertical line there. So it's important that you guys know the rules regarding absolute values. They're always going to be positive, and it's basically the same as squaring then square rooting, because squaring a number makes the result always has to be positive, and then square rooting that undoes the squaring, but it does not change it back to a negative. If you have 1 times -2, the absolute of that will be 2. It will be the same as the absolute of 1, which is 1, and the absolute of -2, which is 2, multiplied by each other. So this is a pretty standard rule, and this works for multiplication and for division. It does not work for subtraction or addition. And if we have the absolute of a number, so if A is the absolute of U, so you can be positive or negative A, which is the same thing that we saw back here. So if 6 is the absolute, or 6 can be 6, or 6 can be -6. Okay? So it's important that you guys have these four rules down. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working through some examples. Okay. So the answers to these are on the notes of your PowerPoint, but I want you guys to work these out. So have a look at each of these questions and consider which of these 4 rules applies. Okay. For example, 23 times -4, it would be this one here. 23 times -4 would be the same as, the absolute of that would be the same as 23 times 4. 23 times 4 is something. I think it is actually 96. Nope. -92. Close. So 23 times -4 would be actually -92, because we're using the absolute. It is just positive 92, because it's 92 away from 0. And once you work out each of these 5, the answers are in the notes. So have a look at that and use these 4 rules. Okay, so what we're going to be doing once you've done that is graphing some absolute functions. Okay, so with this we cannot have negatives in the negatives on the y-axis. So you can, so your your third and fourth quadrant will never have anything in it, which means there's nothing below the x-axis. So here we have a simple function, y equals 2x minus 2, straight line, pretty simple. So if we take the absolute of that, absolute 2x minus 2, we end up with quite a different function. So what part of this graph is similar? Well, if we look at when y is positive above the x-axis, it's exactly the same. But anything that is below the x-axis, where y is negative, is actually reflected on the x-axis. So you should remember reflections from primary school, year 7, all that kind of stuff. So here we go. X equals 1, y equals negative 2, x equals 1, y equals 2. So it's perfectly reflected. Okay, and what I want you to do is use Desmos to graph these functions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to graph the first one. And then we're going to be making it absolute. So you don't have to do an absolute symbol on either side. You only have to do it at the start, which is a weird thing with Desmos, but we'll do that. So x squared minus x. Y equals x squared minus x. Boom. Relatively simple. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click here and we're going to go shift and then backslash to give us the vertical line. And we can see here that what was below the x-axis has now been reflected to be above the x-axis. And you can see how this has changed. Okay. And if we want to go things like that. And you can even have a bit of a muck around if you want. Something like that. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a look at each of these. Well, now there's two. So y equals negative 2x plus 1 and y equals x cubed minus 2x. And I want you to make them, see what they look like, and then make them absolute, see how they change. Now, for the write that essay task, I want you to write 2 sentences explaining why the square root of a squared equals absolute a. Just 2 sentences. And then solve this riddle. So 2 mothers and 2 daughters went out to eat. Everyone ate 1 burger, yet only 3 burgers were eaten in all. How is this possible? Alright, so I'll be on the discussion board to answer any questions. Please contact me if you need any help.